Good afternoon. Welcome to CTIA's Everything Policy program here at Mobile World Congress, Las Vegas. We're excited to be here. We've got some great conversations lined up for you guys with some of the brightest minds in tech and telecom. Although I think you already knew that, it looks like you all came here on the same flight from Washington, D.C. And speaking of Washington, I want to start with the big news, the big shakeup that happened there a couple months ago. I think it caught us all a little bit by surprise when a well-known, well-liked, steady hand stepped aside and a younger, part South Asian vice president stepped up. And of course, I'm talking about Tom Power, who announced his retirement earlier this year. And yeah, let's give him a hand for a remarkable career that really has spanned private sector, government, startups, and so much more. But it means that I get to do the honors of welcoming you all and introducing our keynote speaker. He was just named one of DC's 2024 Tech Titans. I'm talking, of course, about Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Administrator of the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, Alan Davidson. And I want to tell you why I'm so excited that he's joining us today. 3 years ago, when Alan started at NTIA, our government was facing a crisis of trust. The collaboration between federal agencies that had kept our country innovating and our economy growing was cracking. Behind that was a collision of forces, both old and new. Alan is an example of the power of an individual to change the system and rebuild trust. He's a graduate of both MIT and Yale Law, and he has a long and distinguished career in technology policy that spans both the public and private sectors, with stops at Google, Booz Allen, Mozilla, Commerce, and elsewhere. Throughout his career, he has been a champion for protecting American values online, for promoting digital openness and innovation, and supporting consensus-based policies that make our country safer and more prosperous. And at NTIA, he spearheaded the Biden administration's Internet for All initiative, the high-stakes rollout of $42 billion in broadband funding. He launched the Wireless Innovation Fund. He coordinated policy for AI and privacy. And of course, he beat all odds and brought federal stakeholders back to the table on a whole-of-government national spectrum strategy. So please join me in welcoming Assistant Secretary Alan Davidson. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, thank you, Umair. I'm going to have to send my mom the link for that one. And yes, thank you for that introduction, and thank you to CTIA for having me, and thank you to your leadership. I'll join the shout out to Tom Power, and there he is, incredible run and legacy you've left also in the federal government too. So thank you all for being here. You know, NTIA's mission is to build a better connected world, and today that work includes ensuring sufficient spectrum resources for both federal and commercial users, fostering a secure and resilient supply chain for 5G and future wireless technologies, connecting everyone in America to reliable, affordable, high-speed internet service. All three of those objectives speak to the importance of investing in our digital infrastructure, a top priority of the Biden-Harris administration. And I'll just say, this is important work. You only need to look at the headlines to remember why this is so important. The tragedy unfolding for communities in the Southeast hit so hard by Hurricane Helene, it just reminds us all just how vital wireless and digital communications are today, keeping us connected on good days and bad days. So I'm honored to be able to be here today talking about this work, and I'd like to update you on our efforts in each of those three areas I mentioned. I'll start first with spectrum. 11 months ago, the White House released the National Spectrum Strategy. Before I update you on its progress, I want to just say it's important to remember how we got here in the first place. When I took office nearly 3 years ago, the US had no articulated national spectrum strategy. Collaboration between federal agencies on spectrum was fraught, as Umair was just alluding to. NTIA's memorandum of understanding with the FCC hadn't been updated in decades. We were just completing a bruising process, working through the hard issues around 5G and altimeters, radio altimeters. Some of you will remember that. As I talked to stakeholders when I was starting this job, I heard two consistent themes. First, we needed a return to regular order, a return to the processes that work to get stuff done in the federal government. And the second was that we needed an evidence-based approach to policymaking, grounded in science, not guesswork or politics, to address our future spectrum needs. And I'll say, I'm very proud that is what we have done. We started by updating NTIA's MOU with the FCC, creating a culture of collaboration. And I'll salute the folks at the FCC here today and alumni who helped make that happen. We built stronger processes and better working relationships among the federal agencies to solve the hard issues, the many hard issues. And I'll tell you, there are a lot that come up that never see the light of day, but are incredibly important in how we do our work. This administration delivered a presidential memorandum on spectrum and a national spectrum strategy to further spectrum science and evidence-based decisions to better meet our future spectrum demands. This is the hard work of spectrum policy today. This is the careful work needed to manage a multi-trillion-dollar portfolio of private and public spectrum assets. Our work has been guided by the desire, and expressed by many, to ensure that we have a pipeline of spectrum to meet the needs of the private sector now and in the future. It's incredibly important, and it's a need that this administration takes seriously. But as you all know, there are no easy frequency bands for repurposing. The low-hanging fruit is long gone. And any federal spectrum leader, by the way, say hypothetically from another agency or bureau, independent agency, who tells you that there's a magical solution here to make large swaths of spectrum suddenly available for auction tomorrow, they're just wrong. And they probably know it. If there were a mythical band of desirable and unused spectrum ready to repurpose, I'll tell you, we would have done it by now. But instead, we have rolled up our sleeves and are developing solutions. Some of the bands we're studying today are ones that for years no one wanted to touch. They were too hard to make viable for sharing or for repurposing. And for the first time now, I'm pleased to say the US has a strategy that takes on those hard problems. So how are we doing? I'd say we're on track for delivering on the first pillar of the spectrum strategy and our ambitious effort to identify a spectrum pipeline of more than 2,700 megahertz for study. It's a lot of work. You can expect to see, and I'm pleased to say this, the results of our 37 gigahertz study before the end of this year, which is a huge amount of work for the people who are doing it. On the lower 3 gigahertz and the 7 to 8 gigahertz studies, federal agencies are working, I'd say, furiously to deliver. We've got a shot clock that we're working against. We held our inaugural stakeholder meeting in August, and we will be convening again on October 28th. We hope to see many of you there. We're already looking at models and testing scenarios. Agencies are doing the hard work to build out their technical plans and line up funding for studies, which is hugely important for them. It's work that's not necessarily visible to the public, but it's no less intense, I can tell you. I could say a lot about the other pillars that we are working on, but let me just give you some quick highlights. Our third pillar is about promoting, this is the third pillar of the strategy, the national strategy, is about promoting research and development and new technologies to enhance spectrum access. The White House is is soon going to release a big deliverable, the National Spectrum R&D Plan. That R&D plan identifies the top research priorities for innovation in fundamental and use-inspired research and research accelerators to get that work done. Hats off to our colleagues at OSTP, I don't know if they're in the room yet, and at the Office of Spectrum Management. It's been a huge amount of work and a lot to get this over the goal line in less than a year after the release of the strategy. Another big R&D focus for us, the Defense Department, working on a project to demonstrate the potential of dynamic spectrum sharing. Those DSS solutions could enable more sharing. We're going to look at the lower 3 gigahertz band, but also beyond that. And I'll just say, just because sometimes folks are confused, That work on dynamic spectrum sharing is separate from the work that we're doing, the study that we're doing on lower 3 gigahertz as well. There's a lot I could say about the other pieces of things that we're working on under the spectrum strategy, but I think the key point I would just like to emphasize is that if we believe in evidence-based processes, if we believe that that is the right way to go, this strategy, this is what it looks like, right? This is the hard work that we need to do to ensure that American industry and the American people have the spectrum they need to continue to be world leaders in wireless technology. We're committed to it, and I'll just say we developed this strategy with a lot of help from folks in this room and beyond. I'll just say thank you for your continuing partnership as we work to implement it. We need the help, but together I know we can do this. A second big area of work that I wanted to talk about is, and an area where many of you have also served as key collaborators, is our work to foster a more resilient wireless supply chain. That work is also critical. We're in the midst of a global competition over the future of wireless networks. 5G is a very dynamic and exciting technology, but today's market for wireless equipment is static and highly consolidated. Just a few firms today provide the full set of radios and supporting components that power our mobile networks. And some of those equipment vendors pose national security risks to the US and to our allies around the world. To address those issues, NTIA has been a champion for more trusted networks in the world and for industry's development of Open RAN. Open RAN, we believe, allows for flexibility across networks, promotes competition in the vendor ecosystem, helps drive down costs. It starts with our $1.5 billion Wireless Innovation Fund. NTIA has already awarded $140 million to 17 projects to support Open RAN development, and there is a lot more to come. I just say these projects in our first round of funding are well underway. Just last month, EchoStar opened its ORCID laboratory in Cheyenne, Wyoming, that will support lab and field testing activities. Just yesterday, Viavi Solutions celebrated the opening of its Valor testing facility in Chandler, Arizona, which is going to focus on interoperability, performance, and security. We expect to make awards from our second funding round later this fall. These will be the first awards aimed at supporting commercialization activities under the Innovation Fund. And we are excited to say we are on track to release our third funding notice for this program in very early 2025. So stay tuned for more. I'll just say Open RAN isn't just an American priority, it's a global movement. Last month, our Institute for Telecommunication Sciences, our Office of International Affairs, along with the State Department, held an inaugural International Open RAN Summit, an Open RAN Symposium, I should say, in Boulder, Colorado. That symposium attracted a range of international stakeholders, over 21 countries there, to foster collaboration in Open RAN testing. We're committed to continuing these annual symposia, which we expect to grow in size and show how there are ever more like-minded nations who are pledging to join this movement. So third big area, we've talked about spectrum, which is the vital infrastructure we can't see. The supply chain for wireless equipment is infrastructure most Americans don't think about. But a home internet connection is the infrastructure that many of us take for granted. And yet here today, here in America, in 2024, there are still millions of homes across the country, millions of people who still lack access to that basic high-speed internet connection they need to thrive in the modern economy. We have been talking about the digital divide in this country for over 25 years. Thanks to bipartisan infrastructure law, we finally have the resources to do something serious about it, and we are well on our way. The President and Vice President gave us a very simple but ambitious mission: connect everyone in America with reliable, affordable, high-speed internet service. And as I said, we are well on our way to doing that. The Internet for All initiative, as we call it, is historic. As such, we would be remiss if we did not learn from the recent history of other federal broadband programs. And I'll say top of mind to me are the failings of the RDOF program, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. As I travel this country, as I get to do a lot in this job, one of the biggest concerns I hear now is how defaults from this program are having huge impacts on state rollouts of their broadband programs and on people's lives. Let's recall the story. In 2020, the FCC rushed to begin the RDOF auction during the election season there. Leadership chose to move forward without accurate maps to guide the funding. They did not properly vet providers to ensure they could actually build out those networks. All of this was done over the objections of minority commissioners. In fact, then Commissioner Rosenworcel said, "This is not the broadband plan we need. It is not guided by maps. It is not guided by data. It is guided by a desire to rush out the door, claim credit, and pronounce our nation's broadband problems solved." So the auction ended with a promise of more than $9 billion to connect 5.2 million homes. Fast forward to where we are today. $3 billion of that funding was never awarded. Defaults continue to mount, affecting 1.7 million locations and counting. Millions of families who believed that the promise that faster internet was finally coming, only to be disappointed and unconnected. Promises made, promises broken to millions of Americans. The bipartisan infrastructure law and our Internet for All programs has been informed, designed to respond to the mistakes of the prior administration's FCC. History cannot repeat itself here. Our Internet for All programs are informed by the best maps the country has ever had, utilizing an array of technologies in partnership with states and communities, with careful oversight of how taxpayer funds will be spent to deliver the best high-speed internet connection possible to every unconnected home. And today we are well on our way. We've already awarded billions of dollars. We've already connected tens of thousands of locations through NTIA's programs alone. We've awarded $1.8 billion to tribal entities, over 200 tribal entities, the largest ever investment in high-speed internet service on tribal lands. Our tribal program is already connecting or lowering internet costs for more than 4,500 tribal homes, and a lot more to come. Our middle mile program, 1,500 miles of fiber already under construction. Our broadband infrastructure program made service available to more than 40,000 previously unserved households, with huge percentages of take-up rates among those households, showing how much demand there is out there. We've awarded nearly $263 million to minority-served institutions through our Connecting Minority Communities programs. Grantees have gotten more than 21,000 devices out the door to students and community members. This fall, we'll be making awards in our Digital Equity State program and our competitive grant programs, all happening this fall, which have made a combined $1.8 billion available this year for digital literacy and skills training. Shovels have been breaking ground on Internet for All programs all across America. And I can tell you, I know because I've broken some of that ground myself. And there is much more digging to come. And on our biggest program, we are on track and on time to deliver the BEAD state program, which will be the cleanup batter in our grant-making program. To date, we've approved 53 initial proposals out of 56 for how states and territories will connect every unserved location. 51 of those states and territories have either completed or are now finalizing their challenge processes. 8 states have actually begun to select the ISPs that will build these networks. We've made available more than $24 billion in BEAD funding to states and territories. And we've met or exceeded all of the statutory deadlines to keep this program on schedule. And anyone who tells you otherwise, well, they're just not telling you the truth. BEAD gives states the financial resources and the time they need to make sure they finish the job and connect every home and small business. I'll just say many of you have been part of that process since day one, and I appreciate your commitment to connecting everybody. And I'll just say, this is about doing big things. All of these projects together are about doing big things, right? Generations before us have done big things. They connected everybody in America with water and electricity. They built the interstate highway system. These infrastructure projects I'm talking about, these are our generation's big infrastructure moments. These are our chances to connect everybody in America with the tools that they need to thrive in the modern digital economy. And I'm very excited to be working here with you on all these projects. I'm intensely proud of the work that we've been able to do. And because of its importance, it's about a lot more than just technology and communications policy. This is about creating new jobs and economic opportunity for all Americans. It's about promoting innovation and resilience. It's about competing better on the global stage, and it's about building a more fair and equitable society here at home. The efforts I've discussed today to maintain our leadership in spectrum, to secure our wireless supply chain, to achieve an internet for all. Together, they are building the infrastructure that America needs, the digital infrastructure that America needs. So thank you all for your leadership. Thank you for your partnership. Working together, I know we can achieve this vision of building a better connected world. And thanks.